There it is.
Woo! I can't believe that I'm... Oh, jeez.
You've just got back from the Canadian Grand Prix this morning?
Yeah. I couldn't sleep.
Really?
I slept like an hour or so on the flight. I couldn't get to sleep. I'm just...
Because you get to drive Senna's MP4?
I just can't imagine what it's going to be like. I just have this... I have this sound in my head of the car roaring and going through Monaco streets when he's one-handed. I'm just going to go one-handed round and just see what it's like around one of the corners. Let's go, let's go. Can I go?
Racing back in the mid-80s was, I mean, there's an incredible scene, I think, with Nelson Piquet overtaking Senna on full opposite lock. I mean, very little in the way of safety, very little in the way of aerodynamic grip. Manual gearbox and 1,200 horsepower.
Yeah,
you got about 700.
We have about 700.
Yeah, so that's 500
which
more.
is a lot. I mean,
and with no real downforce.
Yeah, and the cockpit, you could almost punch through it. It's phenomenal, and I can't even contemplate what it would have been like. But so that's why I think you have even more respect for the guys that did it back then.
Well, you had to be back in the 80s.
Crazy. Driving around at those speeds, your wheel falls off, the mechanic makes a mistake, you're dead.
It was more difficult to race then than it is now, or?
I think it's... Well, the thing is, today cars are faster. We probably pull a lot more G than they maybe did back then. It was a different car, and the forces they were under, you know, and the fine line between life and death. Death was probably a lot narrower.
Now there's a sense when a car overtakes, the guy that's been overtaken either has a slower car or has an issue, or has been told to save fuel or whatever it might be. Those days you got overtaken, it was I am going to get you back. And
I think the cars back then were, you know, a lot less aero efficient, you know, and aerodynamic reliant. It was more like a go-kart back then, because they literally had big, huge tires with mechanical grip, and that's what you have in a go-kart.
Yeah. I mean, those cars were monsters.
Yeah, but I think the engines, just to think about how much power would come out of a V6.
1.5 litre V6 with 1,200 horsepower.
Yeah, you just can't imagine. And they sounded amazing.
Oh, yeah. It's harder, I think, these days for a driver to shine in the current cars, because they are so, you know, they're so brittle. Whereas in those days, a driver that was prepared to go and really push them shone much more so than those that...
And today. I think so. Since I've been in motorsport, I've always thought the 80s and 90s were that it was the era, the real special era of Formula One.
You know, you've got your Mansells, Piquets, Prost.
Yeah. It was just the right time.
Were incredible, and do you think that shining out from all of those drivers in that great era, Senna rose to the top?
Senna rose to the top. I don't want to go in. Let's do another lap.
And what was it, do you think, about Senna's driving that caught your imagination?
His personality and the way he drove suited perhaps how I felt, what I would like to do.
And how would you sum up his driving compared to, well, anybody else's of the period, or even now, I suppose?
I loved the fact that he was so sensitive and he could feel everything in the car, and his attention to detail was just incredible. The way he drove the car, though, on the circuit.
He was quite aggressive, wasn't he? I mean,
yeah,
I don't mean as a man. I mean, even when he was racing on his own and there was nobody near him, he'd still be fantastically aggressive with the car.
And it's everything. He puts everything into getting that lap, and he had no fear. That's what I loved about it. I love this car. I love it.
Come on.
That's amazing. Oh, it's so much. It's nothing like the car I drive nowadays. But just to know the commitment and to get used to driving this car and on the limit, I just couldn't imagine it, man. It's one of the best days of my life. I just feel so blessed, you know. I dreamed my whole life of driving that car. My whole life. I just ticked off one of my dreams.